What is good, everybody? Welcome to Under Review with Stats and Vish on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Vish Kumaran. Vish, I've missed you. We haven't been together in a little while.
I know it's been a while. I've been traveling. I've traveled almost every weekend over the last 5 weeks. It's been a lot. This past weekend I was in Dallas. I actually got this for $12 at some used store in Dallas, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, we then had that, and then we had me having to now go into work every single day because they ruined my hybrid schedule where I can work from home a few days. And so it's definitely affected our show and us being able to do the show. I mean, just before we got on, I was like, man, Rob, it's been a while. I haven't talked to you.
Yeah, so this is going to be the new time for the show going forward because Vish can't just randomly stop working in the office in the middle of the day. But don't worry, we'll still be here every Monday breaking it down. Like and subscribe to the Gold Standard YouTube channel if you are new here. Click that little bell, and then you'll get notified every time we go live. And like and subscribe to Vish's YouTube channel where the show is also streaming. Just search Vish Kumaran in YouTube. It comes right up. And I promise you, you will be a better, smarter fan. If you are new to the show, this is where we take a second look at the 49ers game on Sunday, and we're going to go pretty much drive by drive. Maybe not every single drive, but we're going to run through the entire game and break down what happened. And Vish, I thought right out of the gate, you could tell this was not going to be the same old 49ers defense that we'd seen the past 3 weeks, because the first play of the game, they come out with 5 defensive linemen on the line of scrimmage, and you're like, hey, looks like somebody made some adjustments over the bye week.
Yeah, the Jaguars came out in such heavier personnel sets on early downs throughout. Ooh, look at you, Rob. I didn't know Late Night Rob has a different twist.
Yeah, he does.
To
Rob, Stats After Dark has more alcohol.
Whoa, look at that. I'll stick to Vish After Dark is drinking some water, getting ready to go to the gym. How about that, Rob?
You go to the gym? See, I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, some of us can't just, stay looking good. We got to work for our physique over here.
Hey, what can I tell you? All right. You think this body is an accident? I don't.
Okay. Let's get back to that first drive, though, okay? Before we gas your head up a little bit too much, let's get back to that first drive and then coming out with the 5 defensive linemen. I thought it was really just a specific matchup for the Jaguars, just because they had been coming out in heavier personnel set. If you notice, there was a lot of Warren Burks on the field, 3 linebackers on early downs because the Jaguars often had only 2 receivers on the field. They were often in 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 1 back, and 2 receivers. Those were their 5 eligible. So I thought the 5 defensive linemen was just hey, we think this is what they're going to run on first down. This is what they tend to start games with from this heavier personnel set. Let's match that. Now, I heard some contradicting opinions to that this morning. Like, for example, Chris Sims on PFD Live thought that this was a very significant statement from the 49ers. It was not a statement about, hey, this is scheme. It was a statement about their energy about this game. What you described, the fact that they were going to come out in 5 defensive linemen and show the strength of their football team and ride the strength of their football team. And maybe that was an aspect of it as well. And so certainly, while I didn't think it was the biggest statement, it definitely had an impact if you looked at the overall psyche, because that first play, that second play, I mean, Rob, it was clear there was a different energy to the 49ers, very different from the team we had seen the last 3 games we had seen them play.
Completely agree with you. I mean, first play, Fred Warner forces an incompletion to Trevor Lawrence. Second play, Lawrence checks it down and bam, Fred Warner is there immediately, makes the tackle all by himself, no yak, which I thought the tackling was much improved for most of the day, which, I think clearly was a focus for the 49ers, and also just coming off the bye helped them recover physically to be able to do that. But I loved it right out of the gate, exactly the defensive performance you want coming out of the gate. And then the 49ers get the ball at their 43-yard line, and 4 plays later, they're in the
Don't skip the third down, though. To me, The third down there is pretty important too. So you're right. Warner made the 2 plays on first and second down. And I thought we saw a much more energized, a much more physical, a much more deliberate Fred Warner than we had seen the last couple weeks. I think that's important when we're talking about this game, because for all the defensive changes, for all this change, the 2 players I'm going to talk about on this first drive, one of them being Fred Warner, and then the other one being Javon Hargrave, who I'll talk about for the third down play. Those 2 guys had not played well over the last 3 weeks for the 49ers defense. We can blame Steve Wilks, and everybody did it, and he deserved the biggest blame, in my opinion. But those guys Javon Hargrave, who got, $42 million guaranteed in free agency day one. He was the Niners' coveted free agent signing. And then Fred Warner, who is, considered to be the best linebacker in football. Both of those guys had not played up to that number either and played up to that standard or status. And then that third down, it gets to Hargrave. And to me, Rob, Hargrave was oh, look at that. Nick Wagner agrees with me too. Hargrave was the best player on the 49ers in this football game. Walker Little, who played guard for the Jaguars in this game, was in hell. We're going to go through all the sacks because we're going to go drive by drive, and all of them are going to basically include Javon Hargrave dominating Walker Little. And this is the first one. They make Trevor Lawrence double clutch. I didn't get to see the film yet, so I don't know what he was looking at and why he double clutched on his first read, but it's a straight bull rush from Hargrave. He beats Little. He makes the pocket collapse, and then in turn, I think it was Armstead that gets the sack by tapping him down.
Yeah, it was Armstead. Hargrave, you're right. He was disrupting everything in the middle of that defensive line, and quickly, too. It wasn't like, 3 seconds after the snap, he gets past. Like, no, it was bam. He's beating guys immediately, forcing Trevor Lawrence off the spot, disrupting entire possessions, like you said. They got the sack on 3rd and 5. That led to the punt. It was a sign of things to come for sure. So let's get to the Niners drive. As usual, they start with Christian McCaffrey right up the middle. And when they come out, those 15 plays, whatever it is that Shanahan has scripted, they usually have success. I think they lead the league in points scored on the opening drive of the game so far this year. And they go down, boom, 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 4 plays, and they're into the end zone. The Jags, we lost Vish. Oh, boy. All right, well, hopefully we'll get Vish back. There was a play with Kittle where they just left him open. I don't know what happened. It was a blown coverage of some kind. Kittle doesn't even run a route. They snapped the ball.
My bad. I had a little bit of a technical glitch when I was changing. I exited out.
Okay. I was just saying there was a play on the Niners' first drive where they totally forgot to cover George Kittle. He didn't even run a route. He just the ball is snapped and everybody runs away.
He just floats out to kind of the cloud
and he catches the ball and he gains 30 yards. It set up the Niners on the next play. Brock Purdy rolls out, rolling to his left, falling away, throws it back over the middle, late into a sea of hands, and Brandon Aiyuk makes the catch. Kyle Shanahan called it the worst decision Brock Purdy's made in his 49 years tenure. I thought it was a terrible decision. I thought he got very lucky, but it still counts for 7 on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I thought it was a bad decision too. I tweeted it, and I thought a lot of people I was like, oh, shoot, I'm going to get killed for it. So I said, not the greatest decision by Brock Purdy, because I didn't want to be getting hate from my fellow 49ers fans.
Don't do that.
When we were all cheering together, okay? But it was a terrible decision, Rob. It's not that it was a terrible decision. The throw is terrible. He's rolling out to his left, and he literally throws up a floater. That was asking to be picked off. And Aiyuk pushes off of Tyson Campbell to catch this football and bail him out. It's not the greatest decision, but the one thing I liked, and I think that this decision is somewhat a reflection of Purdy in this football game, is that everything he did was very deliberate and very urgent in this game. He was aggressive. He stood in the pocket every chance he got. He played as tough and as aggressive a game as you could play at quarterback, given the circumstances and what he was surrounded by. And, this decision, you never want to see him do it again. You're very happy that he got a very fortunate result from it. But the mindset that he played with, the aggressiveness he played with, whatever screw is loose to make him make that dumb decision, you do want a little bit of that from Brock Purdy. You want that aggressiveness from Brock Purdy. It's been, I think, something that's been enigmatic of his entire kind of tenure as the 49ers starting quarterback. He's always been just a little bit close to that line of, is he too aggressive? Is he going too far? And he's just as aggressive as you want a quarterback to play. He's had a lot of moments of good fortune. He's had some moments of bad fortune, but this one, Rob, was just not he should never do that ever again.
And I'm sorry, we got to be able to get to the point where we could say, hey, that wasn't a good decision from Brock. Hey, that wasn't, a a really good throw from Brock. Just because the result was good, it's okay to call it like it is. He made a ton of good throws in this game, of great
awesome throws.
This wasn't one of them. And, Akash is on Twitter over here saying, oh, well, only Brandon Aiyuk could have made that catch.
No way.
No.
Tyson Campbell picks that off 10 times out of 10 if Brandon Aiyuk doesn't push him.
Yes. Like, we can admit that not every throw, everything he makes is great, even if the result is great. And that's okay to admit.
Are we sure the ball was going to Aiyuk even as well? That's...
Yeah, like, why did George Kittle randomly stop running his route? Because if George keeps going the direction he's going, he takes the defender to the back corner of the end zone, and Aiyuk has a lot more space to make that catch.
And you still don't want him, even with a lot more space, even without 4 defenders there, you want him throwing a little... That was like a water balloon in the air. That thing was floating for days.
Yeah, I agree. And this is the thing that worries me, is that all week Brock talked about, hey, I got to be smart. I have to know the line between being aggressive and being reckless, and I have to know when to just go down or just run the ball or take the smart play. And the first drive, the first time he gets in the red zone on first down, Vish, he does that. Thank God it worked out.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But then again, we also have to I will give him this credit too, right? Because it's a touchdown, we can also give him the credit for the part of the play that was good. The escapability, keeping the play alive, the second reaction, the creativity, the willingness to try and make something happen in a play that's dead, the ability to use his athleticism and do that. That's something that he has that this offense hasn't had. Now, you can't do it like that. That's why coaches don't want quarterbacks playing off schedule when they do stuff like that. But we'll take the good result, and it's the best way you can teach a lesson to somebody when nothing bad comes from it and you can still teach a lesson.
Honestly, I think you don't get one without the other. The same thing that makes Brock keep the play alive and extend it and roll out and do all those good things you talked about is the same thing that makes him throw that pass. So, and I think we might just have to live with the fact that he's going to live dangerously sometimes. That instinct is very hard to pull out of a quarterback. It's very hard to get rid of it when it's there.
Well, we talked about it, right? You and I talked about it, I think, after the Cincinnati game. After the Jermaine Pratt play, like, hey, this is who Brock Purdy was in college.
Yep.
Like, when he has an element of you make the game so much on him, he turns into that guy. Now, I have seen that the term Avengers describing the 49ers national skill weapons has become a national term, thanks to Nick Wright. I do remember that I was the first one to call the 49ers supporting cast the Avengers on this show last year. So I would like to mention that. And when the Avengers, and the reason I bring up the Avengers is because I think when the Avengers play, their overall surrounding talent, their ability to create everything that the offense does and make it all pretty much explosive plays and chunk gains, that in and of itself curtails Brock Purdy's instinct. Because to me, this second nature aggressive instinct that causes Brock Purdy's mistakes, it's not something that he does within the offense, okay? I see very few instances of Brock Purdy in the offense straight up short-circuiting under pressure or just straight up not knowing where to go with the football and throwing it up for grabs. I see only these mistakes occur in situations where it feels like Brock Purdy has to do more than what we should expect of Brock Purdy, given what his pay grade is and given who on the 49ers we rely upon. And I think those last couple games when the mistakes were happening for Purdy, I mean, you and I talked about it in shows and all of that. If you're putting this much of the game on him, mistakes are going to occur. It's not necessarily fair to him. That's not the style of quarterback he is at this point. And this is a good example of he got fortunate, but if you look at the entirety of this game, because the Avengers played and because he can play so much of the game on time and on schedule, I mean, 19 to 26, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns is his standard stat line with the Avengers, isn't it?
Miguel Ramirez says, am I crazy or did Brock really amp up the bad decisions after the Rich Eisen interview?
I guess we kind of just touched on that. To me, it was not the interview or anything like that. It was just the 49ers supporting cast wasn't helping him out within the offense the same way, which then in turn causes him to do more. And then, yeah.
And Aiyuk got the touchdown, which, as Brisbee Life on Twitch points out, props to Vish's composed performance last week. I hope Aiyuk's touchdown made a certain person very happy. Hashtag if you know, you know.
Well, I mean, in all I got to say, I'm just happy that it took that for him to get a red zone target. Who would have thunk it, Rob? The guy has 4 red zone targets and 3 touchdowns in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, he was their best red zone receiver last year. So the Niners
he was awesome in this football game too, by the way. When he got the ball and everything, he was terrific in this football game. It's just a tough matchup for him because Tyson Campbell guarded him for a lot of this game, and Tyson Campbell's a very good player.
Squeezing the juice out of all his targets was Brandon Aiyuk in this one. So Niners go up 7-0. They kick the ball off to Jacksonville. And again, Vish, the Jags go 3 and out. And again, there's a sack on 3rd down. And guess who? Javon Hargrave.
Yeah. So this one is Hargrave. Hargrave does beat 72 again, but this to me was kind of emblematic of Jacksonville's overall issues in this game, which is as prepared as the 49ers were, as prepared as they came out, Jacksonville was the exact opposite, okay? Yep. This 3rd down, they're trying to run a screen to the right. I don't know who they are trying to screen for because both receivers go out and block and the back's lined up on the other side. But the entire offensive line goes screen and the back is left inside pass protecting and Lawrence is dropping back like it's a drop back pass, which means they must have called screen, must have been adjusted at the line of scrimmage, and not everybody got the communication. And next thing you know, it's like down set, go get the quarterback because all the linemen go up the field. 49ers defensive linemen are like kid in a candy store seeing Trevor Lawrence, and down he goes, and Hargrave is the one that gets the sack. But we're going to talk about it with the 49ers defense and all of that throughout the show because I know we're going to talk about some surprisingly good performances from certain players who have not played as well, especially when they're replacing certain players who have not played well either. But if you looked at this game, Rob, if we looked at the Niners defense, right, what was their issue coming into this game? They had some issues stopping the run specifically on early downs, right? They had issues there. And then the second issue with this 49ers defense is the 3rd corner, whether it's Ambry Thomas, whether it's Isaiah Oliver, they can't cover, okay? They haven't been able to cover when they've been asked to play in this football game. Jacksonville, first 3 snaps of this game, 0 runs. All 3, drop Trevor Lawrence back, plays right into 49ers' hands. When was the first time they took a chance on the outside and they said, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, let's run a route at Ambry Thomas? The Rams, when Ambry Thomas came first in the game, what did they do? They threw the ball at Ambry Thomas. They went after his confidence. The Steelers, when Ambry Thomas was in the game, what did they do? They threw the ball at Ambry Thomas. They went after his confidence. In this game, and this is where it's good for the 49ers, Ambry Thomas played well. He got a lot of his confidence back. But to me, this is where, as well as the 49ers played, I don't know that I can say they're fully back. They're fully there. I think this is a step in the road. And part of this is they jumped on Jacksonville's throat without Jacksonville having a clear idea or identity of how to attack them. Not going after Ambry Thomas at any point early in this football game and not running the football early basically allowed this game to run away from them, Rob.
And not just being sharp. Like you mentioned the issues with the screen. Like they're coming off a bye too. They had won 5 in a row. Maybe they were feeling themselves a little bit because they weren't sharp. And it set the stage, Vish, for the perfect game script for the 49ers because they get the ball back on their 38-yard line. Again, great field position. And they have a position to go up by 2 scores on 2 possessions, which is the perfect game script. That's exactly how the 49ers are built to just tilt the entire rest of the game. And the Niners go 10 plays, 41 yards, right down the field, and they get a field goal from Jake Moody, which was no guarantee.
Yeah, that field goal, if he kicks it from 41 yards, he probably misses. But lucky. Okay, we'll take the luck. It's not been a good time of luck for the 49ers over the last 3 weeks. So we'll take it how you can get it. A good kick is a good kick. But I thought that drive was just classic 49ers, Rob. Aiyuk was involved. Deebo was in. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was going to say, yeah. First play of the drive, 21 yards to Brandon Aiyuk right out of the gate.
Yeah. And then next, they got Deebo involved. They had McCaffrey involved. It was just 2 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards, 10 yards, 12 yards. And it was just classic 49ers the way they marched up the field. I think Brock Purdy had a really good throw, far hash on 3rd and 8 to Juwan Jennings on that drive on an out route. It was a really, really good throw. He's 3-step drop, stands in the pocket. Colton McKivitz gets beat, hand coming in your face. He stands tall, he stands strong, and he throws the ball far hash on a rope strike. Great throw to Juwan Jennings. for a first down, and they had a really good drive. And then, of course, yeah, Moody for sure is a little bit got me. Let's just say, Rob, a few years off my life have been taken by Jake Moody over the last football season so far. Over this last football season.
Would it surprise you to know that Jake Moody is 14 of 15 since missing the game winner against Cleveland?
Oh, no, not surprising at all. I know he's been excellent in terms of makes versus misses, but I also know how long it's taken for some of those kicks to go through the uprights seemingly in my head. I also know what the heartbeat is like when I see this 39-yard field goal just veering and barely taking over the upright. So when I see all of those things, yeah.
They all count the same. All it's got to do is go through the uprights. It doesn't matter where, right? And it's got to be good for the confidence for Jake Moody. He's only missed one kick since he missed against Cleveland. I know the Cleveland kick was a big one, but at least they're going through. So the Niners get the field goal. They're up 10-0, and we are off to the races. And this is the next drive from Jacksonville. They start to get a little momentum. They actually pick up a first down on a 3rd and 4 play where Fred Warner is so close to breaking up the pass. I think he has his hand on the ball at one point, but it was completed. Jacksonville had a little momentum, but after they got that first down, they basically did nothing. They ran for 3, then they just had a couple incompletions and punted again. Niners defense, that was so encouraging to see them force the Jags to go punt, first 3 possessions of the game.
100%. And really for the Niners, that's like you said, I think game script was the term you used. That's exactly what it is. That's the game script that works. Early, their defense forces short possessions and their offense has long possessions. And basically, they run the game away from you before it even starts. That's what they did to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
That's what they did to Dallas. That's what they do. That's their game script. And unfortunately, the last 3 games didn't follow that script. It's nice to see them go back to the script that works for them, but not every game is going to fall into place the way this one quite did. Because as well as they played and as energetic as they was, and I think their offense, this is the production you can pretty much expect from them on a game in, game out basis when the Avengers, I'm stealing it back, it's my nickname, the Avengers play. But the defense for sure, I think they were bailed out a little bit from a few mistakes from Jacksonville.
James T. Kirk, YouTube channel member. Shout out to you, James, and all the YouTube channel members. I appreciate you. If you want to become a YouTube channel member, it's less than $3 a month. You get custom emojis, you get membership badges, you get priority comment response. So thank you to all our members. Hopefully we get some more. James T. Kirk says, Moody's 82.4%, but I don't trust him. Why? And then Jason says, shaky Jakey, which is, yeah, that's kind of accurate right now for Jake Moody. Okay, so let's continue going through the drives here. The next Niner drive was a punt. And the reason why, Vish, I felt like it was the reason why if the Niners had an unsuccessful drive in this game, it was because of penalties. When they got a penalty on a drive, they did not overcome it. This one starts off with a beautiful completion to Aiyuk, but he completely shoved the defensive back at the top of the route. They called him for OPI. That pushed him back 10 yards, and that was basically the end of the drive.
Yeah, and by the way, I think if there's a player that it's good to have an offensive pass interference from time to time, it's Brandon Aiyuk. Because that to me was, I talked about it, I think, after the Cleveland game, where I thought sometimes at the top of his routes, in a game where illegal contact wasn't called as much, you would see the Denzel Wards and the Greg Newsomes. That's where they would throw off the timing of his route. They would bump him. They would get physical with him. And so this was a great example of, I think it was Tyson Campbell that was trying to do it to Brandon Aiyuk, playing off coverage. And Brandon Aiyuk said, no, I own this space. Now he committed offensive pass interference, but you like the physical urgency that he at least showed running his routes. But of course, you're right. When the 49ers have issues with their offense, when their offense stalls, typically in drives, they even don't score a touchdown. Like what leads them to kick a field goal on drives? It's typically a negative play on first down. And oftentimes that's a penalty, whether it's a holding, it's in this case, a pass interference, that kind of thing.
Chillmatic, new YouTube channel member. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. A quick aside from Chris Maldonado says, random question, which team in the NFC West do you hate the most? I know that's off topic, but I got to know. Mine is Seattle, then the Rams, then the Cardinals. I don't hate the Rams because we always beat them. So it's still Seattle for me because as long as Pete Carroll is there and I have to see his stupid face whenever they make a good play in a game, it's going to be Seattle for me.
Yeah, I mean, is this even a question? My childhood has been marred. I mean,
Ruined.
a lot of people go back to the Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, all that stuff, that era. But
Mhm.
for me, man, Rob, this started, I think it was 2009. The Niners were hyped up to be very, very good. That was the year we thought they would win the division. And they had week 1 in Seattle and they got whooped 28-3 by Matt Hasselbeck. And I think Deion Branch caught 2 touchdowns. Like that was like the first time I had like oh my God, in my life, I think my 49ers are going to be good. And then they get blown out by Seattle, who I thought was going to be bad. Now, 9-year-old me didn't understand how much gravity Seattle's home field advantage had in terms of changing things in the game. But yeah, dude, it's always Seattle. It's always Seattle.
Yes.
And then Michael Crabtree is my favorite player too. That was the other thing.
Seattle actually beat the Niners actually the Niners won that game. I apologize. So maybe it wasn't 09. They played Seattle in week 2 and they beat them 23-10.
Oh, that would have been 2010 then.
So, but anyway,
2010 because I think they went 7-9 in 09. Yeah, it was 2010.
Yes, it was. They lost 31-6.
31-6. There you go.
But to be fair, there were a lot of times where I felt like the Niners were good, and then they played Seattle and they lost. Especially in Seattle, they got their asses kicked a lot of the times. So,
because 10 was the year that Bradford and the Rams, it came down to them versus Seattle for the division week 17, for which 7-9 team will go to the playoffs. And the division was so bad and the 49ers were so talented, as we saw with the turnaround without changing many players in 2011. Everybody thought the Niners would win the division that year, that I think they started like 0-4 or 0-5. And, Alex Smith got booed on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah. Those are the days, huh? So the Niners punt on that possession, and then Seattle. See what you did to me? Then Jacksonville gets the ball. They get a nice run from Travis Etienne, and all of a sudden they get down to the Niners' 46-yard line. It's 2nd and 15, and the Niners elect to go with a 3-man rush. But fortunately for San Francisco, 2 of the 3 guys rushing were Nick Bosa and Chase Young. And just like Chase said when he was introduced, it was a race to the quarterback. They both get there at the same time. Bosa makes the strip and the recovery, Vish. I thought this was Nick Bosa's Defensive Player of the Year game. This was the disruptive, game-changing Nick Bosa that we expected to see a lot sooner.
Yeah, he played great. Now, I don't agree with you. Not that I don't think he was excellent in this game. I just think he had excellent statistics in this game. I personally have not been as upset about Nick Bosa's play over this entire football season. We've talked about it. I feel like maybe he could have been a little bit better, but I certainly think he's played well. He's just not been supported adequately. And so to me, this game was more about, hey, Javon Hargrave finally played how Javon Hargrave should. Armstead has quietly had a very strong season overall. He played well again today. Chase Young made a big difference. Chase Young's a stud. Yep. Chase Young's a star. I still don't know what's going on with his knee, why nobody wanted him, but he's a star. And then Randy Gregory was good in this game too.
I can't believe you're poo-pooing Nick Bosa. I'm
not poo-pooing Nick Bosa. I'm just poo-pooing this idea. Oh, Nick Bosa's finally back. No, he's always been there. They finally played good around him.
This is a different level, though. He had a pass defended in this game. Obviously, the 1.5 sacks, the forced fumble, and the recovery. Like, he had not played to this level. I don't care that he had a bunch of pressures earlier in the year.
He couldn't get the stats, but that's my point. He couldn't get the stats because they weren't playing as well around him. Now he's got the stats.
It's not like they had a great team around him last year, especially in terms of sacking the quarterback. Like,
no, but if he was the one creating pressure, the Ebukams and the Charles Omenihu's would at least be somewhere near the quarterback to allow a sack to happen on the play. The problem was the Javon Hargraves and the Drake Jacksons were creating no pass rush the last 3 weeks.
Vish, he had 18.5 sacks last year without those guys. So clearly,
that's what I'm saying. The Samson Ebukams, the Charles Omenihu's, they were better than what Drake Jackson was giving them. They were at least somewhat supportive. I don't think that he's played that much worse or better, Rob. I think he just got better stats yesterday because they played better around him. I think he's always maintained this high level. He's one of the best players in the league.
I'm not saying he was bad before this year, but he wasn't at this level. He wasn't nearly as disruptive in this game. He had a pass breakup. He almost had 2 pass breakups. He had a tackle.
Caused the interception.
He caused the interception. Exactly. Like, to me, it was a different level. This was like a TJ Watt, Myles Garrett level of disruption that, to me, I had not seen from Nick Bosa this year.
Yeah. Did you see TJ Watt's disruption against Zach Tom this weekend?
No.
Yeah, it did not exist. I just had to say that.
Okay, but
yeah, I got you. I got your point. I just had to poo-poo it a little bit.
Well, and this was a point of frustration for me in this game up until the end of the game, because the Niners get the ball. I'm like, okay, Niners get the ball back, and they're at the 49-yard line. And I'm like, all right, you're up 10-0. This is your possession. You score a touchdown here, you've got complete control of the game. Like, they're not losing if you score a touchdown here. Like, you can wrap this thing up. And not only do the 49ers not score a touchdown, not only do they not get a first down, they actually go backwards 6 yards and end up punting. And it was extremely frustrating to me because in the games that they didn't win, they didn't take advantage of opportunities. And this was their first real opportunity in this game, and they didn't take advantage of it at all.
Yeah, I just realized I missed a play talking about it in a previous drive as well. So maybe we can go back there after this. But I'm 100% with you. And I think this is a theme in this football game. For as well as the Niners played and as dominant as they were, they didn't capitalize actually on pretty much any of the turnovers they got. A lot of the turnovers they got were pretty much just dead drives from the offense. They didn't respond. Now, often they were so far ahead and the Jags offense was so incapable of doing anything because the Niners defense was so suffocating that it didn't do anything. But I think this is a really good point if we're talking about, hey, the Niners have just made this very, very good turn in their season. They're moving right back in the direction that we expected them to move. They are finally as healthy as we expected them to be, or on the verge of getting as healthy as they can be. And they're about to make this Super Bowl run. These are the details that are going to make a difference in games where they can't have this specific game script happen. And this specific game script is the only way we've seen them win this year. And so I think this is a great point by you to bring it up, because we've seen it throughout the entirety or we didn't see it. We saw it yesterday, at least, as somewhat thematically that, hey, the 49ers forced turnovers and the offense really did nothing to capitalize and keep the momentum. And the momentum always stayed kind of in the Niners' direction because they were so far ahead.
They didn't capitalize on the first 2 turnovers that they forced in the game. And why didn't they capitalize? Because on 3rd and 6, when Brock scrambles out and makes a nice completion to Deebo Samuel, what happened? Holding, Trent Williams.
Right.
Fold up shop, fold up the tent, bring out Wisnowski, and they have to punt.
That was a great play, by the way, from Purdy.
And again, a nice catch from
on the off schedule. Yeah, it was a great play.
Great play, but got flagged for hold. I mean, Trent said after the game he was only 75 to 80%, so clearly he wasn't himself. He still had a good game, but
you could see it though when he would get out on runs. That extra explosiveness that he would usually have to get in on a defensive back and crack him. Instead, now he would just kind of run into him as McCaffrey's on that second level. So you could see it a little bit.
Chris Maldonado says, I'm going to the Cards game. My pops got tickets to the game this year, so I'll be at that one. F Seattle, thank you for the response. Much love and respect. F Seattle, I could get behind. Enjoy the Cardinals game. That looks like a different experience.
I hate Arizona too, dude.
They're irrelevant to me. Like, they don't matter enough for you can't be that bad for that long and have me hate you. Like
but okay, maybe it's my childhood there, but like they always used to play Arizona so well. The Niners did when I was younger. Like when Singletary came, right? They had the first game with Singletary after he kicked Vernon Davis off, coming off their bye versus Arizona, and they lost a heartbreaker. To this day, I still don't think Frank Gore was down at the one, but we can continue to argue about that. But it's just so many heartbreaking losses to Arizona. And then they had that stretch where they were dominating like John Skelton and Richard Bartell. Then Palmer came back and started throwing parties. I mean, they lost to Josh Rosen, man.
Yeah, that wasn't fun for sure. But I don't know. To me, they're at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to my hatred in the NFC West. Sign Me 29 says Trent Williams at 75% is still better than anyone on the field. Certainly better than any other offensive lineman the 49ers have. That's for damn sure.
100%.
Next,
real quick, Rob.
Oh, sorry.
Before we go to the next drive, I just wanted to touch on one play. On the second drive, the one that kicks a field goal. They got a
You're
touchdown.
going backwards.
Yeah, I'm going. I forgot to bring this up. They had it. We kind of slid over it right here at the end of this drive, but the 3rd and 4 that he rolls out and sacks to Foye's side, he gets sacked by Foye's side of Lucan. They have a touchdown to Deebo Samuel. The play is arches. Deebo Samuel is wide open for a touchdown. It's the same play Jimmy Garoppolo misses George Kittle in the Super Bowl on 3rd and 5. He's wide open for a touchdown. It's just they brought pressure. I thought the Niners actually had numbers to pick it up, but they didn't get it picked up. I mean, I think it ended up being mismatched numbers on the right side of the offensive line for the Niners. I think it was 3-on-2 on that side. Again, I thought the back gets over, but Christian McCaffrey, this is a bad pass protection play, in my opinion. Josh Allen runs him right over. And yeah, that play should have been a touchdown.
Yep.
He gets a little bit of time. That's a touchdown.
Yeah, Deebo is absolutely wide open. But if you go back and look at that play, it looks like there's two. It looks like Aiyuk and Jennings have no idea what they're doing on the play.
Jennings. So I was looking at the diagram I have of the play, and when they run the bunch, the drag route that Kittle runs is usually run by the Z, which is Jennings on the play. And if you look at Jennings on the play, he sees Kittle go to the drag, and then he changes his route. When he comes off the line of scrimmage, of course, Deebo is running the arches route, but Jennings' timing is a little bit off because he comes off the line of scrimmage and looks around a little bit and then starts going once he sees Kittle goes. So I don't know. It might have been a miscommunication between Kittle and Jennings. I don't necessarily know what happened, but the play looked like arches to me. That's how it's typically run. And Deebo Samuel's wide open on the play for a touchdown.
Aiyuk wasn't even running a route. He literally was kind of half jogging.
But he's the backside receiver away from the bunch. He's the X.
Yeah, whatever. I didn't like the look.
He's isolated. They still could have thrown a touchdown, man. Yeah. But that was one where I thought, hey, the protection busted. If he gets an extra half second, if McCaffrey's able to actually cut cleanly, because he tries to cut, he goes low and he gets run right over. If he cuts cleanly, it's a touchdown. That's where you missed Tevin Coleman. That's all I got to say.
A lot of people, are asking this question. James Thomas, I got to say, the players look like they loved having Wilkes on the field. I know Stats thinks it's a nothing burger, but morale and camaraderie can be a real thing in team sports. It's not just me, James. Kyle said after the game, I think it's, quote, the most overrated thing in the world, end quote, which is funny because he's the one that forced the Wilkes to go to the sideline in the first place. I think it had way more to do with the fact that they had a whole bye week to adjust. I don't think having Wilkes on the sideline made the slightest bit of difference. I think it was all the other adjustments that we have talked about and that we will talk about rather than the physical location of Steve Wilkes.
One of my favorite things about the NFL is when you get the opportunity, and I've gotten a little bit more opportunities because of doing this, where you get to learn things that are just things that you wouldn't be able to learn as a fan. You realize how trivial so many things that we think as fans are important and the media places emphasis on and story places emphasis on that means nothing to NFL players. And when Kyle Shanahan talked about this one, again, it sounded like this meant nothing for them. This was just somewhat of a change of something they were going to do. I think part of that change is, hey, they made Wilkes the entire talking point the last 3 weeks, okay? They put him out as basically the issue with their defense.
Yep.
We didn't criticize Fred. Very few people criticize Fred Warner for playing poorly the last 3 weeks. Javon Hargrave for playing poorly the last 3 weeks. We just jumped on the field, the Steve Wilkes bandwagon. So to me, this was almost like a media distraction for them. Okay, you want to make Steve Wilkes the story? Let's make this change with Steve Wilkes so you talk about this all week and we can get our team to refocus and rewire in on what we need to do. That's what it felt like a little bit to me. I'm sure there's an effect with the camaraderie and all of that, but I'm sure that they would tell you the camaraderie was great if they were still 5-0 and Steve Wilkes was still sitting in the booth.
No, that's all fair. I think I agree with you on that one. Let's finish out the first half here. This is the Jags' only scoring drive of the game, and it actually starts on the 1 yard line. Crazy play on the punt. The punt is about an inch away from getting blocked because Jordan Mason gets bulldozed by a defensive lineman on the punt. It's almost blocked, and instead of being a huge play for Jacksonville, the ball goes all the way down to the 1 yard line, and the 49ers down it there. And then the Jags made, to me, their only adjustment of the day. They were like, we can't drop back and throw. we're just going to run a whole drive of screen passes, runs and screen passes, and that's going to get us down the field. And it worked, Vish. I think they had 4 screens on the day. 25% of the Jags' entire passing yardage on the day came on this drive, and it was almost all screen passes.
Yeah, pretty much. They got the ball out of his hands, and they were actually getting effective plays after the catch. I agree with you. By the way, shout out to the punt. I'm glad you brought that up. Mitch Wishnowsky's having a killer season, man.
Yeah, he is. Absolutely, he is. He's had 2 more punts down inside the 20-yard line yesterday. Had the punt that was down at the 1-yard line. Niners have only punted 28 times this year, but damn, Wishnowsky keeps dropping him in there, man.
Oh, 100%. 100%. 100%.
Steve M says those screens were fast and stretched the field sideline to sideline. So Jacksonville goes all the way down the field, 14 plays, 80 yards. Ultimately, they get stopped because Mooney Ward breaks up a deep pass to the end zone on 3rd and 4, which Ward, to me, didn't have his best game, but he made a nice play in that situation to break up the pass. Jags have to settle for a field goal, and it was the only 3 points they'd get all day long.
Yeah, that was a really good play by Ward, getting his head around. It was the route that gives Niners receivers issues. They went straight man coverage, and it was a slot fade. Fred Warner was lined up over the back on the outside. It's kind of a 2-man smash concept, and it's pretty decent throw. Ward kind of turns it's almost like he turns the wrong way because he opens his hips he closes his hips to the sideline. Usually you see defensive backs when they're tracking the ball this way with the sideline, they feel the defender with their back and they turn this way. He turns this way and finds the ball. Pretty cool play. And I agree. He had a good game. I think the entire secondary trio played well. I mean, again, if I don't take credit for it, Rob, nobody seems to give me credit for it. But I said maybe sometime in February when Jimmy Ward signed with Houston in March, not February, March, that the best nickel on this football team was Diamador Lenore. And I've been saying that. From day one. And I do feel a little bit vindicated because I think he made a massive difference by playing nickel in this game.
It certainly seemed to. I'll tell you that. I mean, just getting Isaiah Oliver off the field first and foremost, I think made a huge difference. And then, I don't think the Niners are getting enough credit for this. They get the ball back after the field goal. There's 4 minutes and 11 seconds left in the half. And the Niners use every second of the clock to drive down the field and get a field goal with Jake Moody. That is an awesome job of clock management. That's an awesome job by the offense because it allowed them to do exactly what they did, which was double up around halftime because they scored the field goal at the end of the half, and then they scored a touchdown in the first drive of the second half that massively stretched their lead out. It was basically over after the first possession of the second half.
Yeah, and the result was great, but I thought they were going to score a touchdown on that drive. Up till Brock Purdy, and this was a kind of short-circuit moment for him in this game when he got outside of the pocket again, and he takes the intentional grounding. Was it a sack? Was it grounding? Who knows? And it's like almost the 3rd time this year that I feel like he's been in that exact situation. But the way they timed up that drive, I thought they were going to score a touchdown and call it right at half. Like that was a beautiful drive up till that point, still getting a field goal and timing it up exactly to end the half. You're right. Was a fantastic possession, but I thought that was one of the best 49ers drives I've seen in the Shanahan era in terms of getting the ball with 4 minutes left in the half and chewing the clock down and transitioning into their 2-minute and going through that. I thought it was an excellent drive.
They were going down the field, and you're right. It really didn't short circuit until that 2nd and 8 play at the 11-yard line where Purdy just go down. Just go down. Don't do this like kind of weird throwaway where it might be ruled a fumble. And if it's not a fumble, it's intentional grounding. Just go down. But he didn't do it. But luckily the Niners eventually get the field goal. Did you see like what actually happened? Because it was really weird at the end of the half. Jake Moody had to kick 3 field goals.
Yeah. And he went 3 for 3 with the one he actually made, again, being a little too close for comfort.
So he kicks the first one. Doug Peterson calls the timeout. Like, okay, no big deal. We've seen that before. But then he kicks another one and it's blown dead, and they never explain why. And after the game, Kyle Shanahan literally said the television network tried to ice our kicker. Like they never explained why on the broadcast it was blown dead. Doug Peterson didn't call a second straight timeout because that would be a penalty, and he's not dumb. He knows the rules. So they just blew it dead. And then the third one that Moody actually makes, it comes as close to missing as you could come without actually missing. Like I think he shaved the upright as the ball went by. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And that was another one, ball in the air. Come on, Rob.
Woo.
Heart was probably racing,
Yep, but it
pounding.
still counts just as much if it was one right down the middle of the uprights, and that's all I care about. So the Niners go into the half 13-3, and you're like, okay, you know, we wish we could have scored a little more, but you're still up 10 points. You're up 2 scores. You're getting the ball first. And then what happens in the second half, Vish? Purdy completes a ball to Deebo for 9 yards, and then he makes, I think, the best throw of his career so far.
Hands down.
To George Kittle. It's 2nd and 1. He pump fakes to Aiyuk on the hitch over the middle of the field, and the pocket gets shoved in his face, and he can't even fully follow through on the throw. And he drops a dime 35 yards down the field, outside the numbers, in pretty much the perfect spot for George Kittle, who catches it. Defender falls down. Easy touchdown. Game over.
Yeah, pretty much. Summed it up. Game over. I think it's the best throw of his career. I think it's the best throw I've seen a 49ers quarterback make under Shanahan. Like, it was really an awesome throw. And they got man coverage across the board. They get pressure. And if you look at it, he wants to go somewhere else with the ball. He pulls out and he resets, and the entire pocket's collapsing. And he knows he has to get it out to Kittle, and he knows Kittle can get it because it's one-on-one. But he knows that it's going to be very hard to get it to him. And if you see the way he stands, he gets his base real big, and he just hucks it out there, and he gets walloped as he throws it. It's a phenomenal description of his toughness, his ability to make decisions under pressure, his ability to understand what's open and all of that. And then, of course, the throw itself is about as perfect as it can get, even if he was throwing with nobody hitting him and nobody around him.
Perfect.
It was an unbelievable throw.
I said the exact thing on the instant reaction show, Vish. Literally, if he had nobody around him, it would have been a great throw. Andre says the best throw, perfect throw. We need more of those. Jay Cruz talks about the throw. He had the incompletion to Aiyuk against Seattle where he ran around a bunch of, for a long time. That throw to Aiyuk was not that impressive of a throw to me. The play before it was impressive, but the throw itself was just like a regular throw. This throw to me was impressive because when we talked about wanting a quarterback with super impressive physical gifts, we were talking about this type of throw, right? Collapsing pocket. You don't have your regular motion. You can't step into it the right way. You can't finish your follow through, yet you still need to be able to put the ball in the right spot. And Brock did exactly that on that throw. That's why it was so impressive to me.
100% agree with the way you said that.
So the Niners go up 20-3, and then it just snowballs. It really started because now Jacksonville's like, they got to get points on every possession, they feel like. And they get the ball, and they're kind of going down the field, making a little progress. And then what happens? Nick Bosa makes one of those game-changing plays I talked about where he's wrapping Trevor Lawrence up on 3rd and 1. Jacksonville elects to pass, which, what the hell are you doing? But okay. Bosa gets pressure. He's bringing Trevor Lawrence down. He tries to throw it, make a play. Ball gets tipped up and falls into the hands of
Talanoa Hufanga.
Because of course it does. Because when the ball is tipped, Talanoa Hufanga is there. It's like when
he played closer to the line of scrimmage, though, in this game. Didn't it feel like that?
Actually, I didn't notice one way or the other. All I know is when a ball gets tipped, like the bat signal goes up in the sky. And it summons Talanoa Hufanga because he's always around the damn thing.
No, you're right about that. And I'll have to actually go chart the snap distribution to let you know. But to my eye, when I was watching the game on my phone, it felt like he played closer to the line of scrimmage than I'm usually used to seeing. But here's the other example, right? Quick turnover. Niners follow it up right away with another 3-and-out.
3-and-out, right. And a sack on 3rd down. They got nothing out of it. So I was sitting there like, duh, that was very frustrating. And Kyle mentioned that it was frustrating after the game as well. But then the Jags get the ball back. And again, they start matriculating the ball down the field a little bit. They got to me, a bogus roughing the passer penalty against Nick Bosa on 3rd and 5.
Unbelievably bogus, dude.
But the league, you could tell the league was going to call some because they sent out that roughing the passer video last week. So you knew that they were going to have the radar up for that. Then the Jags are going down the field again. And then 2nd and goal from the Niners 9-yard line. And to me, Ambry Thomas makes the play of the year for the 49ers. Now I know it got called back due to penalty, but Ambry Thomas makes the stop, holds the ball carrier up, strips the ball carrier, recovers the fumble, then gets up and runs it 91 yards back for a touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah, to be fair, he falls on this ball and the Jaguars quit basically at this point. This was their quitting point and nobody touches him and Hufanga's like, get up and go. And then it's a nice return. But this was an amazing play by Ambry Thomas. This is an amazing play to not quit, to basically just take the ball from him and then recover it himself in bounds. It was like the Super Bowl turning point play by Terrell Brown all those years ago when he strips Ray Rice and then recovers it near the sideline himself. It was very similar to that, but different also with the circumstances. And to me, hopefully it's a play that gives Ambry Thomas confidence. That's the one thing that's been missing from him. And yes, I do think it would have been a different game for the Jacksonville Jaguars if they went after him early in this game, because we've seen examples of his confidence waver. Fortunate for him, they didn't go after him. He played actually a very solid game as it went on, and I'm sure this did his confidence worlds and wonders. And if they can get him to play at least at the level he played against Jacksonville, their defense will be better for it because they're better without Isaiah Oliver on the field. That's why, as poorly as Ambry Thomas played earlier this year, they tried to start him in 4 different games.
Chris Waddell says, I know you guys don't remember, but I brought up the marriage between the secondary and the rush. Vish agreed with me. They did it this week. I absolutely think
absolutely agreed.
Did you see the clip, Vish, online of Fred Warner? I think Fred's mic'd up, and Fred says, they don't know what they're doing. And somebody on Jacksonville replies, you're right, we don't.
Well, yeah, I'm not shocked by that. Jacksonville's offense had many moments of that. Am I just supposed to see that and not say anything when I see just all of a sudden a little bubble appear out of your mouth and it says thumbs up for the like?
I know it's a new thing that StreamYard's been doing, apparently. I had nothing to do with that. I don't know why the like bubble.
Oh, really? I thought that was a new animation that I missed over the last 2 weeks. It came back.
No, it freaked me out. It happened on the instant reaction show yesterday. I was like, well, I don't know what the hell that is, but I'm going to keep talking but I have nothing to do with it. It just pops up. Okay. You're right, Chris. That was something that a lot of people talked about. And James Kirk says, a final free beer for the day, a Levi Stadium 24-ounce domestic beer for you guys. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for the great content. Victory Monday celebrations in full effect. Kirk out! He drops the Kirk out at the end. You got to like that.
Well, Kirk's also out because Josh Dobbs is stud.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs made some
the
crazy.
Pastronaut, man.
The best nickname in the NFL right now. The Pastronaut is so good as a nickname.
I agree. And I remember also after the Arizona game, we were talking about it. I was like, I think Josh Dobbs is pretty good this year. Well, I was wrong, dude. Josh Dobbs is way better than pretty good this year. He's just a good quarterback right now.
He made some very impressive plays for the Vikings. So, yeah, he's kind of saving their season a little bit. Let's get back to this drive because we got a couple more that mattered in the game. The Niners get the fumble back, which gets pushed back all the way to their own 19-yard line, which really stunk. And I think Brock makes his second most.
By the way, I didn't understand the explanation on that either.
So the Niners got flagged because in the irony of ironies, they had people on the field during the interception that shouldn't have been. 2 of the people on the field were Kyle Shanahan and Steve Wilkes. we wanted him on the field. So, yeah, that's what the penalty was for, because Shanahan said they thought the play was over because Ambry Thomas is down on the ground and doesn't really move for a second.
Yeah.
Everybody thought the play was over. So they walked out onto the field during the return, and then that's where they got the flag. That's why the play was called back.
He deserved a touchdown, didn't he on that?
Yep. That was absolutely brutal for him. But Niners get the ball back on the 19-yard line, and they do nothing on 1st and 2nd down. And it's 3rd and 9. And I'm like, here we go. The Niners are going to go 3 and out on the 3rd turnover of the game. And instead, Brock Purdy, to me, makes his second most impressive throw of the game. It's 3rd and 9. He drops back, and he hits Aiyuk for 21 yards outside the numbers, right by the sideline. Just an absolute perfectly placed throw from Brock Purdy on 3rd down when he actually had good pass protection for a change. And it was massive because it ultimately allowed the Niners to go down and get another touchdown.
Agreed. Big time throw.
Loved it. Chris Waddell says you need just a general NFL chat show because the Dobbs being traded 4 out of 5 times and producing within a week of practice from the quarterback needy teams blows my mind. You're not wrong. The guy's been with the Vikings for 10 minutes, and he's already got a couple wins for them. So you're not wrong.
KOC is a good coach, isn't he? I didn't think he was that good of a coach, but it seems like he is that way because of how they started this season without Justin Jefferson, with him getting hurt. I thought they were done, and then Kirk gets hurt, and look at them.
Brisbee Life says Shanahan owes Ambry Thomas a steak dinner for messing up that TD. You're kind of right.
Ambry Thomas owed Shanahan 5 steak dinners for not cutting him till now and
Also
keeping
true.
faith in him.
1,000% true on that one. So Brock Purdy makes the completion, and then they go to the Deebo Samuel 23-yard end around for the touchdown, which I loved, Vish. To me, the old school, 2019 Deebo Samuel end arounds, keep sprinkling those in. Those work. The Deebo out of the backfield plays, they don't work anymore. Like, teams have adjusted. It's not working. If you're going to run Deebo, run him the way they did there, and he gets the end around, and there's one player, and it's Charlie Warner and Trent Williams are out to block, and the corner basically just runs away because he's
he doesn't want that. Who wants that? You see Trent Williams running at you. Come on, Rob. This is why I tell you I need to go to the gym, because what happens if one time at life I see Trent Williams running at me?
Fish, you could spend every minute from now until the end of time in the gym, and I'm still taking Trent Williams in that matchup.
Well, obviously. I'm going down. The question is, do I run away and then go down when he catches up with me and pushes me down, or do I stand there and take it like a man?
So Niners get the touchdown to go up 27-3. Jacksonville's still trying to mount some sort of comeback on the following drive.
Can we touch on one more thing with that, though? Because I'm glad you brought up the Deebo end arounds. It's something I wanted to clarify because I haven't streamed for the last couple of weeks. I've been out of town with work and stuff. The thing with Deebo that the 49ers missed is not, okay, Deebo does these particular things. They missed his energy. They missed how he competes, how he uplifts the rest of their football team. It's infectious. I've talked about this since I've ever done anything talking about the 49ers on the platform, on any sort of platform. He's the guy that gets everybody else going. He's not the rah-rah guy. He's not the leader from that standpoint, but he's the guy who, when he hits people and all of that, everybody else wants to hit people too. He's the guy who, when he gets going, the entire team gets going because he's the confidence, he's the energy, he's the swagger, he's the football team's personality that way. And there's something intangible about him that, regardless of how much his production has been going down pretty much since his historic season in 2021, that they are unable to replace right now because nobody else is able to uplift and bring the energy to the football team the way he is. They believe in him. They believe in him as just being that special, superior athlete and that badass. And so we saw that from snap one. The defense, I think, did set a tone in this game. But for the offense, too, there was a different energy, and I think that starts with him playing. It's not that schematically they were missing so much with him gone. They were missing things. They were also missing the best left tackle, arguably, in NFL history, maybe. But they do miss that swagger. They miss that compete. They miss him walking out with Super Gremlin and all of that kinds of stuff.
Somebody did tell the broadcast team that Deebo and Trent are the ones that bring that kind of swag, confidence, that type of thing for the team. Chris Waddell says Deebo with a head of steam is scary. I bet.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I will say this, though, Vish.
Did you listen to the broadcast with sound, though? You listened to Daryl Johnston? Come on.
I hate Daryl Johnston. He still doesn't know how to pronounce number 11's name on the 49ers. It's Aiyuk, dude. It's not Aiyuk or Aiyuk. It's Aiyuk. It's not that hard. But anyway.
You were going to say sorry.
Feel like there's an element of like that the Niners are sort of built on a house of cards a little bit, because it's like, oh, if Deebo is out, then no one can then they can't get the juices flowing. Then they only score 17 points a game. And it's like, damn, man, like, I get it that, he has some swag and stuff, but like, shouldn't we be able to still kind of do it? It's amazing how they could look unbeatable when Deebo and Trent are there. And then when they're not there, look totally beatable.
I think their offensive line is built on a house of cards, because I feel like when they get into situations where Trent Williams is out, like they're a lot of their run game and stuff, they can't be as creative and as multiple because they don't trust that group of five to do what they're supposed to do. So I don't know that their offense or their team is built on a house of cards, but their offensive line is, to me, because without Trent Williams, and I mean this with all due respect, they trot out 5 bad players as their offensive line.
Yeah, they do. And now they're doing a rotation. They're going to try to do a rotation when Aaron Banks gets back. Kyle Shanahan talked about it today, that they wanted to get John Feliciano in there at right guard because Spencer Burford stinks. He didn't say it like that.
Yeah.
I'm saying it like that. But
yeah.
there's a reason why you rotate your right guard.
He's the worst of the 5 this year, in my opinion.
So Jay Cruz says Deebo just goes into games with that take your chain mentality. That nickname is too perfect for him. You're absolutely right. Jacksonville still tried to mount a comeback, but again, they go down the field, 4th and 15 at the 43, at their own 43-yard line. Your boy, Javon Hargrave, breaks through the line like immediately. Again, rushes Trevor Lawrence, who just
did he beat again, too?
Oh, did he beat Walker again? Or Walker
Little for the 4th time in this game. He kicks his ass one-on-one, rushes half the man, kicks his ass, man. His ass. Lawrence
just chucks it up. Fred Warner joked after the game, like, yeah, Trevor Lawrence throws a nice ball. Hit me right in between the numbers. And he absolutely did.
So there's a great example. As much as, Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, some of the conversations like that, is Trevor Lawrence overrated? Purdy doesn't do that, right? I get it. 4th and 15, you get instant pressure. You short circuit and you throw it up because you just got to throw it up. It's 4th and 15. It's a turnover regardless. In my opinion, turnover on downs is a turnover. 4th down is a turnover. But Purdy, very rarely do you see him in a moment, regardless of the pressure, regardless of what he's asked to do. Oh, crap, I got pressure. Let me just throw it up. Let's just see what happens. Trevor Lawrence short-circuited in that moment. He just threw it up. That was it. He gave up on the play. He didn't know what to do. So there's something I'd credit Brock Purdy. He doesn't do that. Now, sometimes he tries to do something else and throws a ball back across the middle of the field, but he throws touchdown passes when he does that, okay? So...
this is an interesting point I wanted to bring up, actually. Chris Waddell is back. He says, the post-game locker room, Warner says, we learned our lesson. From here on out, it's one game at a time. Basically admits they were smelling their own flowers and looking ahead. I mean, Nick Bosa did admit that they were smelling their own flowers and looking ahead. But yeah, I thought that comment from Fred Warner was telling. And was it to just the players, or was it to Wilkes too? A little bit like, hey, we learned our lesson. You know what to do now on defense. Call the defense like this from here on out.
Well, we'll see if they learn it.
Right. We'll see.
They have a tough schedule coming up. This was the first step in the right direction. It doesn't mean they turned it around fully. It was the first step in the right direction. They've got to continue following this process. And look, this schedule, it's not easy coming up. Tampa Bay is not bad. Tampa Bay won't be an easy game, even though the 49ers should beat Tampa Bay. Seattle, on Thanksgiving, short week, Thursday night, that's going to be a tough game in Seattle. Then you got to go cross country on my birthday, have to play Philly. Not my birthday.
December 3rd. Is that your birthday?
December 13th is my birthday. I don't know where I got the one from, because then I saw the next date was December 10th. I was wondering, do they get a second bye? Are we all getting Thanksgiving off this year? What's going on with the NFL? But okay, it's on my birthday. Yeah, then Philly, obviously, that's the game of the year. Everybody's going to want to watch that game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably going to get flexed, but I don't know if Fox will sell that. But they also don't, or maybe it gets moved to America's Game of the Week and they started at 3:25. Who knows? But then the Seattle game again at home, that's a tough game, and then you finish off Arizona's. That's probably going to win that. Baltimore, that's a tough game, very tough game, and then you finish off with 2 fairly easy games. So
no. The Commanders is not an easy game. Sam Howell leads the league in passing yardage right now.
Sam Howell is going to get sacked 15 times in that game. He has the worst pocket presence in NFL history.
To be fair, he gets sacked 15 times every game. It doesn't seem to matter.
He's going to get sacked. That's going to be the game that they all rack up the statistics.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa is going to go from 9 sacks to 15. I'm not. He's not going to get 6 sacks in a game, but
So the Niners get the ball after the interception, and 3 plays later, they're in the end zone because Brock Purdy finds Kyle Juszczyk. I thought the one funny thing that Moose Johnson said during the game is when Juice catches the ball, he says, go down at the 1-yard line so that they could try to get Christian McCaffrey the touchdown, which is funny. That's just the ultimate fullback mentality. But I'll say this, Vish, and nobody wanted to hear it, and I don't care. Kyle Shanahan force-feeding Christian McCaffrey the ball in a 31-point game to try and get that stupid touchdown record is horrible decision-making. It's irresponsible. It's malpractice, frankly, because if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, you can kiss the Super Bowl chances goodbye. And Kyle, not only did he have him in the game at all, but he kept giving him the ball to try and get that goofy record. He could have gotten hurt. And if he gets hurt, by the way, people are going to kill Shanahan, and rightfully so. But yet he didn't get hurt as far as we know. And so it's totally okay. And everybody's fine with it. And I'm the asshole.
Well, you are the asshole. You're getting a little worked up after your favorite team won, man. Come on, drink another Blue Moon over there. But
you have no problem with that?
No, I didn't. Did I say that? No, I just said you were you said I'm the asshole, so I took the time to call you an asshole. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah, I walked into that.
Yeah. Okay. All jokes aside, I agree with you. I think that, look, it's not even that I care that much that they tried to get him a record. I actually like that stuff. Okay. I think that's cool. But I also think it was an opportunity for them to set a greater tone that's thematic to their season, right? And it goes back to I think it was Chris Waddell who brought up the point that Fred Warner said we learned our lesson one game at a time. We don't smell our roses. This was a good opportunity to pull him out of the game, not get the record, and set the tone that we're not in it for just him to get the record and win in week 9. We're in it for the Super Bowl. Everybody understand that even if whatever record you miss out, we're going to compensate it by getting the Super Bowl. I think that that's a message that could have been sent by pulling him out of the game. They obviously chose not to. They elected not to send that message. Now, again, just as we talked about with Moody's kick and Purdy's throw, fortunate results from that kind of decision making. Yep. But I do think, again, it did take an opportunity it was an opportunity for the 49ers to show that they're more committed to the long-term goal. And in this particular case, they did it.
James Thomas says Kyle got caught up with the players on that one. Sounds like the players wanted it for him, but that's when a coach needs to step in.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was Kyle wanting to be well-liked in that locker room, man. Honestly, like there's just no excuse for it. What if McCaffrey gets concussed or somebody steps on his ankle and he gets a high ankle sprain? Everybody in the stadium knew he was getting the ball. Nobody had to cover anybody else. I thought it was a terrible decision by Kyle Shanahan, and it's hilarious to me that the same people who are screaming that Kyle got Trey Lance hurt and Kyle got Brock Purdy hurt in the first quarter of games are totally okay with Christian McCaffrey in a 31-point game being force-fed the football. That makes no sense to me.
Here's the other thing I'll say about it. This will be somewhat controversial. But as a fan of the team, it felt to me also like they were rubbing Jacksonville's noses in it, which I don't care for necessarily.
Oh, I don't care about that.
I didn't think there was any reason for him to be in the game at that point and getting a touchdown. Like, they beat the living crap out of them in that football game. They beat the piss out of them for 58 minutes. They could have done the Mike McDaniel and moved the F on.
Kyle did say he talked to Doug Peterson immediately after the game and explained the situation, and that Peterson was totally cool with it, that they knew about the record.
Oh, dude, you mean the guy who wrote a book named Fearless? This is gonna be a spicy thing to look forward to. This is where sports media, this was one you could have turned into a beef. You create so many unnecessary beefs. This is one, you take it, you turn it into a storyline, you put these two teams, the extra 49ers AFC game next year, you put it these two teams and you stick it on Sunday Night Football. That's how you turn a 34-3 game that was supposed to be your game of the week into your headline story. But you know what the funny thing is? It's almost the opposite of what Shanahan did when Kittle had 205 yards, 5 yards in the first half, 5 yards away from breaking Shannon Sharp's record at the time. Travis Kelce broke it for most receiving yards by a tight end in the game, and Kyle was just like, "Oh, sorry, Kittle."
I just thought it was ridiculously irresponsible. And then after the game, he got asked about it, and of course, he did what he always does, which was attack the structure of the question instead of answering the spirit of the question, because Eric Branch, who asked the worst questions of anybody ever, said, well, you would have had to talk to some people in here if Christian McCaffrey got injured. And Kyle just said, well, I don't make decisions, based on having to talk to you after the game. I do what's best for the team. But this wasn't what's best for the team, Vish. It clearly wasn't. He just wanted him to get the record, whether he wanted it for Christian, whether he wanted it for himself, whether he wanted it for both, whatever the reason, it was a stupid, irresponsible decision by Kyle Shanahan. And
I mean, they've wanted him to keep this record and get this record going this entire season. That much has been obvious, okay? I don't want to lead into conversations that were contentious for some people last week, but part of the reason there's a disproportionate amount of touchdowns and disproportionate amount of red zone targets for the other players on the 49ers offense is because Christian McCaffrey gets the ball like 90% of the time in the red zone. He's leading the league by far in red zone carries, and he leads the 49ers in red zone targets. Not Brandon Aiyuk, not Deebo Samuel, not George Kittle. Christian McCaffrey leads them in red zone targets, red zone touches, red zone carries, red zone everything. They've been trying to get him this record since week 4.
11 plays in the red zone for the 49ers on Sunday. 7 of them were either runs or passes to Christian McCaffrey, whether they were completed or not. I almost think maybe it's a good thing that it's over with now, and maybe that, gives them a little more flexibility inside the red zone to do some different things. But I couldn't believe that Kyle did it. To me, there's you could say you wanted the record, and I get all that. I get why Christian McCaffrey wanted it for sure.
Christian McCaffrey, the players, they absolutely should want it. Christian McCaffrey has earned that. He's been awesome for 17 straight weeks. He's been scoring touchdown after touchdown. He's earned the right to get that opportunity. But the coach has to look at the big picture and decide what's best for the player and best for the team. And in the case of Christian McCaffrey, the most important player on the 49ers, the guy that if he gets hurt, I feel like a lot of us would come on here the next day and say the season's over.
Yes. You can't risk that guy. You can't do it. Not in a 31-point game. I thought it was crazy. And there's so much good about the 49ers in this game that I hated that this was the way it ended, because I didn't want this to become the thing that people remembered when they remembered what I said about this game. But I couldn't believe how people were defending it. You don't understand football, and you never played team sports, and all this other stupid stuff. But thank God Christian McCaffrey didn't get hurt. Chris Waddell is back. He says, no way we pass Detroit for the 2 or 1 seed. Detroit's remaining schedule, besides maybe Dallas, should wreck the rest of their games. Absolutely. I was pulling so hard for the Chargers to pull that one out, because Detroit's schedule is cake. And thank God for Josh Dobbs in Minnesota, because that's the only thing that even gives the 49ers a chance to pass the Lions.
The Niners will smoke Detroit.
Yes, they will. I agree.
I just think that's a terrible matchup. Detroit plays so much zone coverage. They're incapable of playing man coverage. What are they really going to do against the Niners and Kyle Shanahan playing zone coverage? It's not like they have a great run defense either. That'll be an electric game, though, because Detroit's offense will score on anybody.
Yes.
But the Niners defense will get enough stops in that game, and they'll spook Goff a little bit with some pressure.
Hold on. I want to share the Lions schedule really quick. It is so freaking cake. It is pathetic. So they beat the Chargers. They have the Bears, the Packers, the Saints.
Some of us thought Green Bay would be okay before the season, so there were some idiots like me who thought that.
Bears, Packers, Saints, Bears again, Denver. Then in Minnesota, Dallas, and Minnesota to finish. So the last 3 games will be a challenge for the Lions. But you're right. That offense will score. If Jared Goff has to go outside on the road against anybody in the playoffs, he ain't winning. Ain't winning. That dude is soft as Charmin, man.
Oh, geez. Come on. I've been as big a Goff hater as anybody. He's been playing. He's been balling. He's been balling the last couple of years.
He's been good at home. Hasn't been nearly as good on the road.
True.
He's not good in the cold. He's not.
That's absolutely right. He's not good in the cold at all. Absolutely not. But that's been his story since. Oh, there you go again. Look at you.
Oh, the likes. Yes, thank you everybody for the likes. Like and subscribe to both YouTube channels, Gold Standard and the Vish Kumaran YouTube channel where this is streaming. Yeah, I just think that they do have a good offense. I want to give them their props. They absolutely do. And I love the way Dan Campbell's aggressive on 4th down.
Dude, that I was about to say, the two of them going after it 4th down after 4th down. Were you in heaven? Were you eating your popcorn, drinking your Blue Moon? Like, this is football for me.
It's what you should do. But they're going to be competing for the number 1 seed for sure, because they ain't losing. They might lose 1 more game the rest of the year, assuming everybody stays healthy. I think they're gonna win a lot of games this year.
I'd rather have them get it, though. I think the only place the 49ers would have trouble going into is Philly. They won't have an issue going into Detroit. They won't have an issue going into Dallas.
Well, we know that. Yeah, I'm not worried about Dallas. I don't care how many yards.
Well,
Dallas,
you can buy one of these for $12 in Dallas. You know who's owning Dallas.
There you go.
There we go.
Dallas had 640 yards against the Giants, and that's not an exaggeration. That's the real number.
Yeah, their ownership of the Giants is pretty cool because it's like no team should ever dominate a team the way they do, but it's like they dominate these bad teams like this, and then they get put on against a team that doesn't make mistakes.
Yep.
And Dallas is just a team that lives on compounding the other team making mistakes. And Dallas has nothing to offer when the other team doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah, not worried about the Cowboys, but anyway, it was a great performance by the 49ers. Exactly what we wanted to see. I hope they don't exhale now and think like we have zero problems. We're fine. Everything is fine. Like you still need to focus and be on top of it. You can't have miscommunications. You can't have receivers not knowing plays. You can't be not capitalizing on turnovers. I hope they don't get too relaxed, but it sure was nice to see, Vish.
I think this was the cool game that I think Shanahan will be able to tell them, like, hey, when you go back and watch it, like, yeah, we kicked their butts, but this is like beginning of the year where we still did these things wrong and we still kicked their butts. And I think there's another level to the 49ers. That's all I'm saying. And if I thought this was a B game from the 49ers, how about that? This was a B game. And if a B game can go into Jacksonville, a very tough place to play off of your bye and do that against a team that will be in the thick of things in the AFC playoffs, well, then imagine what the A team for this team, A game is for this team. I think the A game would be walking into Philly and beating Philly. And I think this team is capable of doing it. I think their roster is perfectly healthy right now. It's just about for them getting some consistency playing this way.
I have said it all year long. If the 49ers play their absolute best game, there is nobody in the NFL that can beat them. Nobody.
One team.
I don't think there's anybody.
I'll still give Kansas City that one thing because the quarterback's magic, but maybe you're right this year too.
I think that they don't have enough to help him on offense this year. It's not his fault.
But their defense is
good. Yeah, their defense is a lot better. But I have faith in Kyle that he'll be able to find the weakness in anybody's defense. I honestly think if they play their best, and you're right, like they don't always play their best. Their best to me this year was the Dallas game. They missed 3 tackles in the entire game. They forced 4 turnovers. Like that was their best. And to me, when they're at that level, like I don't know who's beating them, but we got a long way to go before we have to worry about that.
The Dallas game and the Jacksonville game are just a good example of their energy and their aggressiveness. When they come out and they're that aggressive, they just intimidate teams off the field. Like that's really what happened yesterday, right? They were so aggressive in those first 2 drives on offense and defense, and they were so physical. They were so deliberate. They were so urgent in taking the game to Jacksonville. That Jacksonville was like, oh, crap, dude, I'm just coming off of the bye. I was trying to ease into this game, and it's already 10-0. Like, what's going on? That's basically what it became. That's what they need to bring. I don't know who brings that for this football team. If it's Deebo, I maybe it is only just Deebo, but that was definitely missing in the last 3 weeks. And yeah.
So Andre says Mahomes is Mahomes. He has no wide receivers, and it doesn't matter. The Chiefs are 13th in points per game this year. 13th. That's basically average. That's slightly above average. I get that Mahomes is
What do you think they'll be by the end of the year, though? Coming off their bye?
Probably 13th. Like, who are they getting?
Okay.
Their defense is amazing.
I've seen this story too many times before, man. Rashee Rice out of nowhere is going to turn into the second coming of somebody pretty good.
Dude, they brought back Mecole Hardman, okay? There's only one reason
he stinks, and he's going to do something for them. Watch in the playoffs.
Oh, he already has.
I've seen this. I'm
not saying they're going to be a bad offensive team, but I'm saying they're not the big bad wolf like they were in years past. They're just not. The facts are we're halfway through the season now.
Dude, I saw this with New England for years. You know, Jamie Collins would get cut on Thursday after being terrible on a new contract for some team. He'd be back in New England by Friday, and then on Sunday he would have 2 picks, 2 forced fumbles, and they'd be putting him in the All-Pro conversation. How many teams was Pat Chung just bad on? But how good was he for so long as a strong safety for New England? Dude, with the Chiefs, it's that type of aura, that type of juju, that whatever needs to work out for them, it works out. Maybe that's why they had juju. They have all the good juju.
I hate to quote Kurt Schilling, but I will. When he played the Yankees in 2001, and they said, "Were you worried about the aura and mystique of the Yankees?" And he said, "Aura and mystique are dancers in a nightclub." And that was the perfect answer for them not being intimidated by the big bad Yankees. You
Yeah,
shouldn't.
those answers are distracting, though. They're taking the eyes of the other team's players off the field. They're looking at aura and mystique, and Mahomes is throwing for 350 and 3 touchdowns right when he needs to. Of course, Baltimore, had this shocking loss. Everything will work out. Once again, the Chiefs will get the 1 seed somehow. I've seen this 5 straight years. They lost in Mahomes' rookie years, both games. Or they lost at home against the Chargers. The Chargers were 12-4. They were 12-4. They got the 1 seed. The second year, they got a bye because New England blew it at the end of the season. And then they got a bye. And then, of course, that year, the 1 seed was Baltimore, and Tennessee walked into Baltimore and did what they did, and they got a home AFC championship game. In 2020, some more BS happened. If I wanted to go look at their schedule, I'd tell you how the BS happened. They always have this happen, Rob. I don't want to be that complaining fan, but them.
Again, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying at the 49ers best, I don't think that anybody beats them.
At the 49ers best, the guy from Buffalo Wild Wings is going to make the call, and the Chiefs will beat him.
Well, that's what it might take. But you know what? Let's worry about that if it gets down to it in February, even if it's 49ers Chiefs. But that's going to do it for this edition of the show. Longest show we've ever done. First show at night, under review after dark, baby. Get used to it. We'll try to do it around 5 p.m. Pacific time every Monday. Thank you for all your questions, your comments, all your likes. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Both YouTube channels, the Gold Standard and Vish Kumaran's YouTube channel. Rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Give Vish a follow on X at Vish Kumaran. Give me a follow at Stats on Fire. Vish, I missed you, man. It was good to have you back.
Yeah, dude, I miss doing this for sure. It's nicer to do it, I'll tell you, during work. You feel this thrill that you're missing work, all of that. But I missed you. I missed doing this show. And here's to a great evening show between you and I.
Hell yeah, baby. Go Niners. We'll talk to you next week.